Welcome to another episode of Dyslexia News. May was a very busy month for us as we shifted from our Drop Everything and Read campaign to our new campaign, Dyslexia and Me, which centers around mental health and its relationship with dyslexia. Dyslexia and Me is a global initiative where Succeed with Dyslexia explores the narratives of dyslexic people when it comes to mental health, and takes stock of just what mental health can mean to the global dyslexia community in the world today. The campaign this year focused on relationships between dyslexia and mental health, raised awareness, and kickstarted conversations that will pave the way for a more open and accessible future. Dyslexia and Me also aims to develop a better public understanding of the importance of support and diagnosis, and challenging accepted mental health norms in the workplace and in education. The campaign featured, as we will see throughout this episode, first-hand narratives from people whose life experience is affected by dyslexia on a daily basis. As well as exploration, we also wanted to provide engaging, practical strategies to reach out and connect with resources and support designed for people on their dyslexia and mental health journeys. Here are the topics we're going to be covering in this episode. Dr. Neil Passe will tell us his inspirational story on how he overcame his struggles with dyslexia and how he teaches others to feel empowered in their learning differences. Our team member Donna will give us some insight on interesting facts that you might not know within the world of dyslexia. We'll then hear from Dawn and Elizabeth Winn on how they learned to succeed with dyslexia as a couple. Lastly, Joe Fallows introduces us to walk and talk sessions that can improve physical health and mental well-being. So take a seat, grab a coffee, and join us as we showcase how we made May all about mental health. As part of our Dyslexia and Me campaign, we chatted to Dr. Neil Alexander Passe about the lasting effect that school trauma can have on a person's mental health throughout their entire life. We also explore how debunking the myth that dyslexia isn't just about reading and writing, and employing tailored teaching techniques can connect with children so that they feel empowered and part of the community. Dr. Neil shared his inspirational story of how struggling with his own dyslexia at school to then retraining as a teacher to fix a broken system to help the SEN children, and how his trauma he experienced at school has led to success through resilience and knowing that it is okay to fail.
When we look at, someone with dyslexia, and that continuous, that aspiration to continue to grow their own knowledge and their own, the position that they're in, and maybe it's a job or something else. How do we avoid the kind of the burnout, and how do we kind of what would you think would be kind of great? Because we got to be mindful about, the continuous stress, I guess, that we, that we put on, and the anxiety. If we're on one aspect, we're thinking, okay, you can get things wrong, and then we're chasing things to get right. But in between that, it's just that mindset of how we handle our own kind of anxiety and stress.
Right. So that Blue book was looking for the keys for parents. And one of the things that there were several keys. Yes. So the keys of turning that drain of getting everything wrong. Just most kids are used to the odd thing they will get wrong in school. But the dyslexic child will get things wrong in every lesson. Every task is because it's not built for them. School is, they are the round pegged in a square and obviously a hole. They don't quite fit in, so they fail a lot. So I tell parents two things. One is you praise the effort and not the achievement. The praise is, it's not well done, you got an A. It's well done, you worked really hard. It's the effort that you need to praise. It isn't what is, because the achievement, it will come, but it will be slower. So that's key one. The second key is help your child to find something that they're good at. For me, it was art. I couldn't do French. I would go into trances during French lessons, but I found I was good at art, and I was the best in the school. I got the top mark in O-levels. So I had my ceramic art in the head teacher's office. You know, I was the best in the school, and the school allowed me the freedom to find what I was good at, and then develop that. And parents, the one thing that I tell parents is help your child to find something they're good at, and allow them to and obviously develop that. I mean, of the people I was speaking to for that book, some of them were really great at knitting. So they created their own small and obviously business, creating knitted wallets that they would sell. Guy and obviously Hans, who I spoke to for the book, he was really good at poker, you know, and playing the stock market. You know, he found his niche, and through finding that niche and something that you're good at, it could be sport, it could be. I mean, my cousin, who is this dyslexic, was amazing at and obviously graffiti art. So he's built a career doing graffiti art. He would paint the night club walls. He would paint furniture in a obviously graffiti style. It's about finding something you're good at and then being the best you can. And that means that you may not gain the self-worth at school, but you will outside of school, and that will begin to balance that.
Thank you, Darren. Now I'm going to hand it over to another one of our team members, Donna, to share with us some interesting facts from the world of dyslexia.
Did you know that the first World Dyslexia Assembly was held recently in Stockholm? Her Majesty Queen Sylvia of Sweden, their Royal Highnesses Prince Carl Philip and Princess Sophia, the Princess Beatrice and her husband Edoardo Mapelli-Mozzi met at the Royal Palace to discuss their personal stories, as well as hold panels on education and exploring how to help those with dyslexia creatively flourish. Both Princess Beatrice and Prince Carl Philip have dyslexia themselves, and it's amazing to see dyslexia awareness on a world tour for a more inclusive future.
In this next interview, Darren is joined by dyslexia advocate, educational keynote speaker, and award-winning author Don Winn and his wife, Elizabeth Winn, and how the two learned to succeed with dyslexia as a couple. Don was diagnosed with dyslexia in adulthood. However, Elizabeth had very little knowledge of the learning difference when they first met. Together, they embarked on a journey of dyslexia discovery to see what does work after many years of trying to comprehend how to understand each other. Through this understanding of dyslexia, Don and Elizabeth learned to become a team instead of being at odds with one another. And that, even though they are two very different people, they complement each other brilliantly.
When we take dyslexia and we talk about dyslexia in schools, and then we talk about dyslexia in workplace, it's not normally spoken about massively within relationships unless you've experienced it yourself. I understand that some people think, well, actually they've just, that my partner has dyslexia, and that's kind of that's as far as it kind of goes. And there's different ways of dealing with this. But it's incredible the amount of work that you've done to research to fully understand how to support each other within this, because it's a two-way thing, isn't it? I know that although I need support within my kind of dyslexia, I know that there's a certain parts that I would need to give support back within this. And it's just understanding. It's understanding that, and that can be very, very tricky if you don't speak about it or look into it or speak to your partner. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. And what's been amazing in this journey together, as we both began to fully understand dyslexia, its sibling conditions, and all its ramifications, is that we recognize how we truly complement each other now. Because I have strengths that she doesn't.
You do.
And she has lots of strengths that I don't. And when we actually work together and recognize there's things that I can't do that she can, and vice versa, and we don't expect each other to have these same strengths. We complement each other, and we together, as we were talking about earlier today, we are our formidable force. Because when two minds come together unitedly, a lot more can be accomplished.
Yeah, it's really about the love and the respect and meeting each other where we are, rather than saying, well, why don't you tick off all these boxes over here? It's not about perfection. It's about showing up for one another and unconditional love. And again, that respect for the strengths that may have taken us both some time to perceive, because, sometimes we're not early bloomers. Sometimes we bloom a little bit later in life. But the point is, you bloom and enjoy the beauty of that experience together.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what would you say with regards to, because it's inspirational that what you both have done and working towards the understanding of each other, and if we were from a couple's point of view that probably didn't go down the kind of the research and all the other this side, what kind of things would you suggest? Because you mentioned at the very early stages of the relationship there was a few things that were quite difficult, and it was the understanding of whether Don doesn't care about that, or he's forgetting this, or some, all these different things. What would you say those kind of early stages were, if someone was kind of going through that, what they can do, and we understand this isn't a quick fix or anything, but just these small little incremental steps that people can kind of put in place?
Well, I'll go ahead and start out. I think that the number one thing is, if dyslexia is involved in either party, is to learn everything you can about it, and all the when you look at behaviors, to say, okay, how is dyslexia involved in that? And also, when you begin to understand that, you can't just, flip a switch and say, okay, now we know that you have this problem, let's fix it. Because there are some things about dyslexia that cannot be fixed. It's just, you just have to work around, or you just process things differently. And you have to recognize that. You look at the individual's strengths, and you really leverage those strengths. And as far as the weaknesses, that's where the other party can help with those weaknesses, and that's where the complementing each other comes in.
Absolutely, thank you.
And my best invitation to couples that are discovering these challenges in their relationship is to keep an open mind about the significance and the import, the meaning of what the troubling or challenging behaviors are. Don't automatically assume that the relationship is over, or that love isn't there, or that respect isn't there, or that it's a hopeless situation, because it's not. If you truly have that depth of love that drew you together in the first place, there's nothing that you can't overcome. And like Don was saying, there's a certain level of acceptance that's required once you learn about the way the brain works differently. Neurodiversity is neurodiversity, and that means having an expectation of someone's brain being exactly like yours is going to lead to disappointment, but only 100% of the time. So when you understand that the other person's brain works differently, that doesn't mean it's broken. That doesn't mean that his brain or her brain is not as good as yours. It just means it's different. And that out of love and respect, this is your opportunity to accommodate one another and accept the reality of what is and work with that. And you can build beautiful things in a neurodiverse relationship. Actually, we have one of the best marriages that I know of, and I work with lots of couples. So, there you have it. What you start out with and what you end up with can be two very different things, but it depends on what you believe and how hard you're willing to work.
Did you know that 1 in 4 of us experience a mental health problem in our lifetime? Anxiety is the most frequent emotional symptom reported in dyslexic adults. That's one of the reasons that during Dyslexia and Me this May, we looked at coping mechanisms to help us deal with stress, anxiety, and burnout. We walked with Jo Fallows in the beautiful Longman Valley in Shropshire, West Midlands, as she discussed a new green therapy to boost your physical health and mental well-being through walk and talk sessions in the fresh air with a qualified therapist. Let's see how that went.
As part of our Dyslexia and Me campaign, we are talking to incredible individuals around dyslexia and also around mental health. And what we're doing during this campaign is really kind of looking at strategies and ways that people will help to deal with their own kind of mental health struggles. We are with the incredible Jo in the most beautiful surroundings in Shropshire. And Jo, would you mind just introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about you and the incredible job that you do.
Okay, so as you say, we're in Shropshire, beautiful Shropshire. We're actually in Shrewsbury, surrounded by the Shropshire Hills, which are my office.
I really feel for you having
It's disgusting, really disgusting view. And in those hills I offer walk and talk therapy, which has been around for a while, but I think is really having some sort of resurgence at the moment after lockdown. So I take clients out, as we've just done, haven't we? And I take them out for an hour's walk, and it's just conversational therapy based in beautiful countryside.
And I think, you know, as you mentioned, that kind of getting outside. I mean, for me, understanding kind of, you know, with my kind of mental health, dyslexia, ADHD, those kind of elements, you know, going back to nature is so important, and just kind of getting outside. And I guess, you know, you touched on the fact about how prevalent it is now that we're kind of past, you know, I wouldn't say past the pandemic, but you know, the situation with the pandemic where I guess technically everyone was kind of, you know, conformed, you know, to be, you know, confined into their homes, which is more important to kind of get out. How much do you think it helps someone's kind of well-being, just being able to kind of down tools and get out?
I think massively, and actually I coined the phrase green prescription, because that's essentially what it is. It's not going to your doctor and getting a prescribed medicine such as antidepressants or sleeping tablets. It's actually using what you have around you. It's free and accessible, and connecting with nature. It's huge, and it's going back to basics and stripping away a lot of what we use as tools and stress management. And I think just a 15-minute walk a day is all it takes, and we all have 15 minutes, don't we, where we could just pop out, I think.
We do, and I think it's, you know, I always find it difficult. So for me, you know, I love to get out and walking in nature, you know, and putting the phone away.
Yes.
For me, I mean, and that's a tough thing to do, whether it's kind of, you know, for personal or for, you know, for work use. You think, well, actually, if someone wants to get hold of me, I need to have this phone with me.
Yeah.
But sometimes the device can be a distraction because we're always kind of on it. But I feel the best time that I've been able to connect is when I put it on airplane mode and I've kind of taken it for, you know, put it in my back pocket or left it there. And then really kind of, you know, that element of kind of looking up and just absorbing those surroundings. Have you found the least amount of distractions?
Yeah, and in fact I was going to say, I used to go for walks and I'd put a podcast on or some music on, and I stopped it one day, only by accident, because I forgot to bring them. And I was like, oh, and I almost went back and got them, and I thought, don't be silly, Jo. Look at where you are. And for once I actually absorbed where I was properly and stood and listened to the birds and, you know, just the wind in the trees, and just that in itself was so calming. I've never done it since. I will refuse to. Really? If I'm doing jobs around the house, I'll put the earphones in because I quite like it because it pumps me up, but I don't need that for a walk because I get everything I need from the walk. I don't need the distractions from elsewhere.
But it is, you know, sitting with you now, I can hear the bird song in the background.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely, you know, glorious. And I always think to myself, you know, like when the you know, the evening's coming in, you know, 5-6 o'clock or something, and you can hear the bird song, and it is that real kind of connecting with nature, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, to kind of take you back, you know, literally from what it was before. There are so many distractions that we have, and when you do your, you know, your walk and talk and therapy, do you find that when you're with someone that they're kind of living in the moment, because they're, even though they may be talking about the past or anything else, but there isn't huge amounts of distractions?
Yes, it's a good point actually, because I do person-centred therapy. So that is all about bringing yourself into the present. So it is a fabulous way of describing it, actually, because you do want them to be there and experiencing what's on offer, but also talking about things from the past but putting it into present context. And it helps perfectly, and it is a natural distraction, walking anyway. You know, the natural rhythm of walking is soothing. But there's a saying I heard the other day, actually, and it's stuck with me. I'm like, I like that, so I'm going to use it. And it is motion releases emotion.
Wow.
And I like that. And it is powerful because, and it's funny, actually, I've had some clients and they're like, oh, I never cry, you know, I just hold it all in, and I'm like, you might find then, whilst walking, it comes out a bit more. No, I don't think it will. And I'm like, we'll try, we'll see. And they're just overwhelmed by floods of tears, actually. But it's in quite a nice way because there's no tissues handed. Because I think a tissue is stop crying, I don't know what to do with you. It's like, just let it out.
It's almost like, oh, I need to stop this, and, you know, stop the tears from flowing, and that. It's an amazing connotation when you think about that. And, you know, maybe it's come from a helpful point of view, but generally it is kind of stop, and those elements of being able to feel those feelings and be able to kind of, you know, let them, you know, come out freely is very powerful.
It is, and I do think nature helps with that, because if you're in a room, for example, and I you know, traditional counselling definitely has its place, and as was discussed earlier, you know, I have my therapy, as you have to, moving forwards for myself, but sitting in a room for me is it's like an interview, and I'm such a I'm quite motivated, and always I think forward momentum is a very good thing for me and a lot of people. So sitting down in a room, eye contact, and you're like on show, I think for a lot of people it's just too much, and they don't often go back. So, you know, it is finding the therapy that works for you. But I think if you're with someone that is completely enthusiastic about just walking in general, which I am, and that's my background, hiking, then I think that comes through, and I think that they, you know, and they're learning routes. So when the therapy ends, they've also learned quite a few routes that they can take themselves on. So it's a continuation of the therapy.
Absolutely. And you know, and I feel that element of, you know, just walking and talking is kind of, it is a natural, you know, like you said, it's a natural ability that, you know, that we do. And I guess with the emotional side of it is, sometimes it's difficult, you know, I'm not just saying, you know, statistically for men, or, you know, but to speak to someone and really kind of speak and open up and trying to stop that kind of, not bravado, or probably not using the correct terminology, but, you know, there's a certain responsibility, I guess, for anyone to think, well, you have to be, you know, in a certain way or seen in a certain way. So those moments when someone's listening, but really listening.
Hearing you.
You know, like when you ask someone, you know, how are you? But you're saying like, no, how are you?
Yes.
It's a completely different way of doing that. And I guess, you know, you must have seen those experiences where someone is actually, this person, you know, you're really listening to me.
Yes, yeah, you do, and I think it is, and I say to them, because before I see a client, I'm not salesy at all, even though that's my background actually, but I'm not with this because it isn't, you know, you know, I'm selling what I do, obviously, but
you're helping so many people.
Yeah, that's right, and it is a service, obviously, but I do discovery phone calls, so I'll do a free 10-minute discovery phone call with all potential new clients, and it's just a way for me to explain to them what to expect, and just to say to them, look, this is your forum, this is for you, it's completely confidential, we've got all the contracts signed, just to be heard for once, because so many people in life don't feel listened to, whether that's in your workplace or by a partner, or so it is me completely listening. You know, and I try as often as possible to have them slightly awkward silences, because that's when they think, oh, I'm going to add more on to that.
Those awkward silences are so powerful. You know, in any day walk of life, you know, when if we looked at, say, comedy, for instance, when someone's telling a joke, you know, that the pause is the timing in there. But then if we've done that in the sense of, you know, when you're listening and you're not doing you know, someone you're talking to is not doing 100 different things because life's busy. And not judging in that as well, not being judgmental about, you know, well, if I say that, what's the reaction? You know, there isn't anything really connected on there, and I you know, I think that's really powerful, and I think more conversations should be had.
I do.
You know, around this and understanding what different therapies are out there to be able to help them.
And that's just a snippet from our brand new campaign, Dyslexia and Me. If you want to know more, make sure you keep following us on social media. We can't wait to tell you all about our journey in June in our next episode, as we'll be focusing on dyslexia's relationship with homelessness. as well as bringing you all the regularly scheduled Succeed with Dyslexia content you love. We also invite you to join us on the 4th of July for our Facebook Live with Paloma Ford, where we will be talking about how early intervention can change dyslexic lives. And if you have any questions for us, please feel free to leave it in the comments below, or let us know if there's a specific topic that you would like us to cover. Thank you once again for watching this episode, and if you'd like to see more incredible content, please feel free to click this link here and view our previous episode. We do come out with a new episode every single month, and we'd love to see you there. And until then, thanks again so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.